All right, let's dive into one of the most powerful and honestly controversial short stories out there, Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour. This is a tale that crams an entire lifetime of emotion into just 60 minutes. And trust me, it's going to make you question everything you think you know about love, loss, and freedom. But first, let me ask you something to get us started. Imagine you get the absolute worst news possible, the kind that just completely shatters your world. But what if, deep down, I mean really deep down, it was secretly the best thing that ever happened to you? Just let that sink in for a second. Okay, so our story kicks off with some tragic news, but it has to be handled with extreme care. We meet our main character, Mrs. Louise Mallard. And here's the first thing you absolutely need to know. She is, as the story puts it, afflicted with a heart trouble. You're going to want to hang on to that detail. It's crucial. So the way they tell her this news is a masterclass in tension. Her sister, Josephine, is there, trying to break it gently, in these broken sentences and veiled hints. Meanwhile, her husband's friend, Richards, has raced over from the newspaper office. He saw the telegram confirming it. Brentley Mallard's name is on a list of people killed in a railroad disaster. You can just imagine everyone is tiptoeing around, walking on eggshells, terrified the shock will be too much for her fragile heart. And her reaction? Well, it's exactly what you'd expect, right? A total storm of grief. She doesn't hesitate. She just completely breaks down, weeping with what the story calls wild abandonment. It's this huge, raw outpouring of emotion, a picture-perfect reaction for a grieving wife. But, and this is a big but, this is just the calm before the real storm. After that first big wave of grief subsides, Louise does something a little unexpected. She goes up to her room, all by herself, and she insists on being left alone. It's right there, in that private space, looking out an open window, that the real story, the one happening inside her, starts to unfold. And this is where things get really interesting. See, internally, Louise is just wiped out. She's physically and emotionally exhausted with this soul-haunting ache. But the world outside her window, it is bursting with life. You've got trees aquiver with new spring life, the delicious breath of rain, sparrows twittering. It's as if nature itself is trying to tell her something. As she's just sitting there staring out at a patch of blue sky, she starts to feel a change. The story puts it so perfectly. There was something coming to her. It's this unnamed feeling, something she didn't ask for, and it seems to be coming from that vibrant world right outside her window. And get this, she doesn't welcome it. In fact, she's afraid of it. It's not a conscious thought, just this subtle, creeping sensation that she can't quite name. She's actually trying to fight it, to beat it back with her will, but it's just too powerful. The tension is just building and building. What in the world is this thing that's about to take hold of her? And here we go. This is the absolute heart of the story, where everything is about to change. This is the moment that grief transforms into something completely different, something forbidden. What's so wild is that this feeling, it's not bubbling up from her memories or thoughts about her husband. No, it's coming from the world outside, from the sky, the sounds, the sense of spring. It's like this external force, a force of life, is taking hold of her. And then it happens. A single word escapes her lips, whispered over and over, free. That vacant stare and look of terror, they just vanish from her eyes. They become keen and bright. Her pulse quickens. She is literally coming alive. She knows what this feeling is. It's joy. But she also gets how utterly inappropriate, how socially unacceptable it is for a grieving widow to feel this. That's why Chopin calls it a monstrous joy. It's a feeling that violates every single expectation of her role. And yet, in this moment of stunning clarity, she dismisses that thought as trivial and accepts this joy completely. This one moment triggers a complete 180 in her worldview. I mean, just yesterday, the thought of a long life made her shudder. A life lived under the kind but powerful will of her husband. But now she's actually praying for a long life, a life that will belong to her and her alone. You see, this is so much more than just being single. This is a profound moment of self-assertion, of her claiming her own existence. For a woman in the late 19th century, this wasn't just a feeling. It was a radical, almost revolutionary idea. She's embracing a future where she will finally get to live for herself. So filled with this newfound ecstasy, Louise finally opens her bedroom door. She emerges not as a grieving widow, but as a conqueror, totally ready to start her new life. But, of course, the story has one more massive twist in store for her. And just like that, everything unravels. She descends the stairs, triumphant, looking, as the story says, like a goddess of victory. Then you hear a key turn in the front door. In walks her husband, Louise Mallard, alive and well, carrying his bag and umbrella, completely unaware of the supposed disaster. Richards tries to shield her from the sight, but it's too late. The moment of victory turns instantly to horror. And the reason for his appearance is just crushingly simple. There was no miracle. He was never in any danger. He was just away. The news that gave her an hour of profound, life-altering freedom was all a terrible mistake. And this brings us to one of the most famous and devastating final lines in all of fiction, an ending that hinges on a powerful, tragic misunderstanding. The doctors arrive and they give their diagnosis. She died of a heart attack, brought on by overwhelming joy. They assume she was so overjoyed to see her husband alive that her weak heart simply gave out. But we know the truth, don't we? This is a perfect example of dramatic irony. That's when we, the audience, know something the characters in the story do not. Her sister, Richards, the doctors, they all believe one thing. But we know the terrible truth. The joy that killed her wasn't the joy of seeing her husband alive. It was the sudden, violent death of the joy she felt at being free. The shock of having her future snatched away in an instant is what stopped her heart. And so we come full circle, right back to a question. Given the monstrous joy she experienced and the life she briefly glimpsed for herself, was her death in that moment the ultimate tragedy? Or, in a strange and dark way, was it a final escape from a life she now knew she could no longer bear to live? That's the question the story of an hour leaves us to ponder.